Hello Tubesters, it's Gav. Welcome to another one of my videos. No, I'm not going to redo that. Right, yes, it's Gav, and we're looking at another one of my videos. That sounds a bit better. Right, we're today it's I suppose an unboxing, review, look at, whatever you want to call it, of some figures from Iron Duke Miniatures, and they are sold through Empress Miniatures. Iron Duke is owned and run, I believe, by Mike Snook, and I should stop looking at these and looking at the camera again. These, his figures tend to be for the British colonial period. First of all, I believe the bits that I'm going to be looking at in a minute, the Indian Mutiny for 1857-58, and earlier, and then he's gone back into the retreat from Kabul. Where was it? The 44th were I think they were massacred more or less on the retreat from Kabul. But all the Sikh wars, and I've always had an interest in India at that period, but particularly the Mutiny. One of my many interests. I know you obviously, oh, I love this, love that, but I've always had I enjoy reading about the Indian Mutiny. I know that's not a lot of guys out there, if you're not British or maybe even Indian, although they call it the rebellion, we'll call it the mutiny. I can understand it's not being a huge topic of interest for a lot of people, even in the UK. You know, it tends to, that period of India tends to get passed by. You know, people seem to enjoy more a bit later on, you know, 1870s, 80s up in the northwest frontier and things like that, but or even into Wellington's time, you know, Sarangapattam and all that type of thing. But I actually like the period of India from the, you know, the 1830s, 40s, 50s. My old regiment, we were 4 regiments then, 3 of which we recruited in Staffordshire, and 1 out, but they all came together. And my regiment off and on has been all through there, in China and all, it's been all around the world with most British regiments in the Empire. So I tend to get drawn obviously to do my own regiment first, and then I do everything else. This is going to be a long time project. It's not just time, because I obviously have my clients' figures I do. I have my things like my Wild West figures, my Star Wars figures. Not bad differences in Star Wars to 1857, but or the Old West. But also it's just the expense. I mean, metal soldiers now are expensive, and you know, I have to sell a lot of my own stuff to recoup the money to then invest in my own little bits and pieces. So I'll do this up as and when. I intend to do both sides. I doubt I'll cover every British regiment that was there, and I doubt I'll definitely wouldn't be able to afford to do every mutineer regiment that was present. But I'll be taking anything that takes my fancy, really, and mix and match. So anyway, after that, oh, by the way, I'll do a bit of history. Not so much on this one. It really is just an unboxing because I'm waffling already. But either when I'm showing part painted or full painted units, I'll give you a bit of history of it. I know, as I say, it's not going to have a big draw, even in wargaming stroke painting soldier circles. You know, the mutiny isn't a huge draw to a lot of people, but I enjoy it. I don't just enjoy the military side of it, I enjoy the political side of it, you know, and like most things, this has been argued to death since it happened, really. As I say, there's a move now, when you look at it on Wikipedia, it's not the mutiny, it's the rebellion or whatever, and I just think, oh, it's a mutiny. It's all been a mutiny for me. But anyway, let's go down and take a look at these figures, and we'll go through. I bought one of those value deals, and I added that you don't. At the time, I will look at this bit of history quickly. We were selective in taking the colours into battle. Sometimes they would be shown, or, you know, the colours are being held as we're going into battle. Other times they would have been stored into a battalion baggage under guard, or sometimes just cased. So with if you don't know, when they're not furled, the colours, and that's flags, by the way. British Army, we always call them colours. The colours are cased in a case. So this unit value deal doesn't come with ensigns. We have in the British Army, some of the European armies have NCOs carrying the colours, or their colours, or colour, because a lot of the German units, I believe, only carry one colour. We have two, and it's usually carried by the most junior ensigns in the battalion. For obvious reasons, whoever's carrying the colours gets shot down at a regular basis, and being frank, it's easier to lose two kids at 15 or 16 than it is more senior officers. So, and that was why according to reading Mike Snook's excellent background, if you look on his website, he's got huge notes on it, so it's a real help. But he was saying that it was more it wasn't so much the worry of losing the colours. In the British Army, that doesn't happen very often. It was more the fact that we were losing a lot of officers, you know, and the colour party in general, senior, you know, colour sergeants protecting the colours and all that. You know, we were losing a lot of people around the colours, and so in this particular war/conflict, and in others, I mean, even in the American Revolution, we didn't always bring the colours in, because often as well, the battalion, or you call it a regiment, it's a bit interchangeable in the British Army, because a lot of the especially now, but a lot of or when I was in, we only had, my regiment was just one battalion, so it's regiment, battalion, you know, is a point of view type of thing. So what they would do is they would split the battalion into wings at this time, 1857, and they could be separated. They could either be together, but then obviously fighting in the same battle, but as wings of a number of companies per wing, or they could be one wing dispatched with another column, leaving another wing, wherever it happened to be, you know. So you obviously the colours can't be with both wings. So obviously it would always be with the headquarters, but yeah, I'm going around in circles, aren't I? That's always. I'll try and do bullet points. I never write scripts and bullet points and all that. It's the way we roll on this channel. But I'll try and be less confusing in future episodes of my Indian Mutiny project. I will be doing some scratch building, some buildings as well for these, and I might even game them. You never know. But anyway, thing is solo gaming. You have to do both sides, and it gets expensive. But we'll see. Anyway, let's go down and take a look at these figures. Right, guys, thanks for joining me at the bench. I bought these colours at the same time, as well as some finials. This is the colours of the North. Sorry, they later became the North Staffordshire Regiment, which then was later amalgamated in 1959 to becoming mine. Once the 1st Battalion Staffordshire Regiment, Prince of Wales. Anyway, this is the Queen's colour as it was then. Obviously we have a Queen now, so it's still the Queen's colour. Obviously, if it's when we've got a King, it's a King's colour. It's not the Union flag. That's flown from the jackstaff of a Royal Navy ship. It's the Union flag. You carry the Union flag to remind the battalion or regiment of its duty to the Queen and to the country, the people. So that's our the one colour carried. Second colour tends to be and this is where we get the colours from, the colour of that particular regiment. So as you know, at the time we're still wearing red coats, although in India in this particular mutiny period it was so blooming hot, a lot of the times they weren't wearing red coats at all, but we'll get into that as we go along in the project. But anyway, if you wore the red coat, you would be having your colours. So in this case, black for the 64th of foot. They would have black cuffs and black collars, and that's not, that colour, by the way, isn't sorry, the colour on the collar and cuffs of black, that could be the same for about 3 or 4 other regiments. It could the one that's recruited from my local area here, who if I was way back in the day, I would have been recruited into the 38th of foot, which is the oldest part of the regiment, and they have yellow, so the colours would be yellow type of thing. So I got these. I wasn't sure if I was going to fly colours with them or not, and I thought, well, it's my regiment. It's how could I not? So we'll be doing the 64th of foot, of course. I'll get these figures out of the bags. What I should have said as well, guys, is I've been cleaning these up. I couldn't resist it. I got these on Saturday morning, I believe. They came through the post, and very good, well packed and well and came out to me on time, if that's the words I was trying to find, roughly. I've been cleaning these up. I've just noticed another mould line there, which I've completely missed. In fact, I haven't cleaned this one up at all, I don't think. Oh well, I'll be going back through them all and checking. But right, what do I think overall? Very nice poses. You can't. These are sculpted by Paul Hicks, who did the Vietnam figures that I do. In fact, we've still got these guys still languishing on the thing, on the bench, getting bits done to them slowly. So Paul Hicks always does a nice figure. You can never fault his work. To be honest with you, I don't fault many people's work because I couldn't do it. So who am I to throw stones at people? But I like his work. Fairly slender figures. I can't. I was going to put it next to. Oh, actually, you can reach over. Let's get a front rank figure. Now this is front rank, and front rank are more chunky. But you can see more skinnier in the face. Let's get these out of the way so the camera can focus. This is a young ensign. Most of the figures, or a lot of the figures, have got the big mutton chops and the beards, because that's obviously in that time period throughout the world, that's what they were. That was in vogue. This guy's going to need a bit more cleaning up. I think that's the problem with me, is I start something and then get called away or do something and then I forget where I am. So they'll all be completely done when I'm cleaned up, when I'm finished. But yes, what I was going to say is it's hit and miss with the mould lines. Some of the mould lines on some of the packs have been almost non-existent, and others have been quite chunky. There has been a bit of infill in places I've had to drill out. Not massively onerous. I've been able to do it with a pin vise, so it can't be that bad if you're using not having to use a Dremel on them. But we've got ensign with a pistol, with what you could say modern pistol, with chambers. These are like a quilted neckcloth. The heat was absolutely dire out there, and obviously in these type of conditions, you had a lot of guys falling by the wayside, either dead with heat exhaustion, and obviously all the dysentery and things like that. What I am getting is there's a I wouldn't say a fair bit of flash. That should, yeah, see, it's just pushing away. But there's bits of flash. This is roughly the type of mould lines you can see for thickness. I did have 2 poses that were a bit thicker on the mould lines. It took a bit more work, but nothing that you wouldn't get on most figures. But I really like the poses he's running along. I like more officers and NCOs in my units, just to get a bit. I was going to say a bit of variety, but to be honest with you, there is so much variety in these poses that you can't really go wrong. This you'd have to say is obviously an NCO. He's got no sword or pistol or anything like that. But I've seen a lot of times in the mutiny, in artwork and that sort of, and officers carrying muskets as well. if you think about it, we were fighting soldiers that we trained, that were trained and fought exactly like we did, with our weapons. So it wasn't unusual for an officer to get a bit of distance with a bayonet there and things. But he's calling the fellas on. As I say, a lot of these I've gone over with a file, so you know, it's hit and miss which ones I've cleaned and how good I've cleaned them. But beautiful poses. This is, I'd say, the senior commander. As I say, you don't get any colour bearers in these because the colours weren't carried that often. But again, Mike's thought of that, and you get a pack of ensigns that you can buy extra. And well, say buy extra. That's only because I bought the value deal. I mean, you just pick obviously what packs you want. But again, he's got his peak on his. The fellas, I'm surprised. You know, I'm surprised he didn't come up with some peaks for him to with the sun and everything. These fellas, the 64th, would be dressed in. Majority would be dressed in a khaki, which would have been white shirts, dyed in-house, you know, with whatever dye they got. So they were more like grey looking almost. We've got our musician here, and we were just really going over then to the bugle more than the drum. Obviously it's easier to carry and more portable. But again, lovely running sculpt there. I drilled out, that was flat, the bugle. I'm surprised they left it flat, but I just lightly drilled it and then just sculpted it out with the tip of a scalpel blade, and then put the file in there. Hopefully it'll come up okay, just to get a bit of depth so it's just not flat across. But yeah, really nice. So in a way it'll be quite a boring regiment in some respects to look at, because as most of them were, because different regiments had different depending on the general or the commander of the particular battalion, what he was pushing for dress regulations. Some, I've heard that some were fairly uniformed, if that makes. The 64th weren't as that bad. They put their blokes in loose shirts and trousers. Some of the trousers though could be issue trousers, which would be like an Oxford dark purpley blue with a very thin red stripe down the seam. And as I say, these are white, or they'd be khaki in the end, but you know, like khaki covers for the hats with a sunscreen over them. But I'm going to make these fairly shabby with patches and things, because whenever I've read on all the regiments over there, obviously the uniforms are just, even in a year, the uniforms are falling apart. What I've found with these are, there is a fair bit of infill in the ones that are quite close to the body. Again, it's not been, I had one where it was just flash and it just came away with the scalpel, and I've had probably about six maybe, where I've had to put the drill in. I almost chain drill it, you know, just put 2 or 3 holes in and then carve it out with the scalpel, and then if possible get in there with the file. And there isn't, I've not had a single pose that's the same in each pack of 4. As I say, mustachioed, bearded, a few young ones obviously couldn't grow anything. Sorry for the noise of the bags. You might as well see them all. So in this pose we've got one guy taking aim. Again, all the equipment's the same. It's all like regulation. We've got guys running. When I've seen these on Mike's page, they've all been put on the same base. You know, there's not such a thing as everybody running, everybody firing. I'm quite happy with that. I love the divergence of the different sculpts. So I think for me, to make these not look too just khaki, we'll have to do some things with them just to make individuals out of them somehow. But that would be, that's one pack. So you can see the variety in there. Now I'm not saying you'll get that, I don't know, but that's what you get. We've got kneeling poses here. One firing. I think these are the percussion muskets because they're carrying them on the cross belt. But when you read Mike's the background notes that he's put up for you to follow, he even goes into which units are believed to carry which muskets, and rifle muskets. So obviously some would have percussions, some wouldn't. I think that's right. So we like this guy here, we can do it like an Oxford blue or black or whatever it was on the actual hat, just to add different bits of colour in. But these are great. These look great on a on a 3 or 4 bases. I'm not particularly over fussed on how many's on each base. As I say, I think there's 24 there in the actual value deal. That came in at £35, but I did buy you've obviously got I bought the colours, I bought the finials, and I bought the extra pack, so that soon bumped it up. Again, even with these guys, I think is there 2 the same there? Might be 2 the same in a minute. Let's just have a look at these 2. No, even these are different. Again, shiny metal is hard to see on the camera. Those. This is the ensign deal. The bag in there is the finials. Some finials to go on top of your wire. All these, I say, all 4 of these will be. You could put you put your colours into the hand. Again, that's nice and dramatic. I've got a Pif Helmet here. One of the more early ones with the breather tube in the top. If I use any, I'll probably use these 2. And looks like he's got a flintlock pistol. I say they're really nice. I really like this era. Probably not, in some respects, probably not as colourful as a bit earlier in India. Where you're probably enforcing the red coat a bit more. There's definitely variety because you've got units with the China coats on, because we had to divert units that were actually going to operations in China and to send them to India. They were all on boats, ships, and when this blew up, there was lots of massacres of civilians, women and children, and they really needed to get a handle on it quick, and they diverted China expedition battalions, regiments to serve in the mutiny to help put it down. So anyway, yeah, that's that's the ensigns. As I say, if you're going to, so if you want to fly colours in your units, you'll need the ensign pack if you're going to buy a value deal, because you won't get colour bearers in them. So that's up to you. So as I say, I believe mine was £35 with the VAT. And as I say, I bought this extra unit because I knew I'd be, if I was using colours with any other units, I've got them, you know, at least I've got another couple of figures already. I bought the colours, I bought some finials for them. But again, you can get away, to be honest with you, a lot of the time these weren't carrying colours in the field, so you know that's an expense you might not want. You know, if you don't want them, you know, you can do without. Right, so overall, what do I think? Yes, can't fault the poses whatsoever. Mould lines, it's been hit and miss with the mould lines. Nothing huge, again, nothing that would put me off recommending them. I've got, by the way, again, as I said, I've got no connections to Iron Duke Miniatures, and I've got no connection to Empress Miniatures, who they're sold through. You know, I'll just say, if you get good service, shout it out. If you like something, shout it out. Mould lines don't particularly bother me. I've not seen anything that I wouldn't expect on a metal figure, or a plastic one for that matter. It's, you know, obviously they're moulded, you've got to have a seam line. So that's not a problem. There was, as I say, you've got to be prepared to, well, you don't have to, you can just paint it in black as some people do, just to paint a shadow, but you know, you have to, this wasn't completely filled in, by the way. It wasn't, if I remember rightly, it was just down to about there. But there have been issues of, not issues, but you know, there's been times when I've had to probably drill and cut out about 6 figures out of the 24. And as I say, mainly with it being close to the body. And there's been one, and I couldn't even remember which one it was, where I had a chunk of metal from the butt of the musket up into the cartridge box, and that had to be drilled and cut out, which, you know, I wouldn't normally expect that, but again, it's negligible. You know, that was one figure out the lot, so you know, it's nothing particularly irksome. As I say, all the metal, it's hard enough not to be, you know, the muskets, obviously we've got our long bayonets here. I've not found anything particularly fragile with them. They've, as I say, the infill that I have had, I've drilled out with a pin vise and not my Dremel, which quite often I have to use on other figures. So a bit of flash where you'd expect it to be, really. And again, like most flash on other figures, just easily to pare away with a scalpel, takes it out quite easy. So yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy seeing this project evolve. Like everything I do, it's as and when. I'll definitely be doing updates because as I say, I can't be drawn away from my commission work doing. I was never going to do a whole, that's why I've been doing little bits and showing you my Western figures and things like that, because I can paint them on the side without impinging on my my commission work. This is an entire battalion, so I will literally be doing it almost like the Western figures. I'll just take a bag out, which is why I've been pre-cleaning everything off. Take a bag out, prime them all, and then you know, paint 4 at a time, probably just on the side as and when I want to. So you know, don't expect a huge rush to the finish line with this first unit, and definitely not the project. It's just something I've always fancied doing. I've always, as I say, I've always read up on the mutiny and the earlier conflicts in the Sikh wars and going into Burma and things like that. You know, they're not things that people follow, you know, a lot. It's one of those things that's almost history's fading away into the background on those, really. But as I say, people get more drawn to either Wellington in the Napoleonic Wars, that earlier period, or you know, a bit later when everybody was in khaki up in the northwest frontier. So yeah, thanks for taking a look. Would I recommend them? Absolutely.
As I say, I've never had bad service yet from Empress. These are Iron Duke miniatures, let's say it again, they're sold through Empress. I think the way that Mike Snook's gone about his, if you call them projects, is excellent. If you go on his blog, he has a lot of background reading you can do that he's put up himself, he's looked into and he's put it up. And I think when you're launching a range of, well, I know it's been out a while, but when you've got a range of figures to give potential customers, I should say, you know, they've got a starting point there. And a lot of times you don't have to go any farther if you don't want to. You know, it's enough there to get your figures painted. He explains who got what uniforms on that obviously we know about. Let's get it straight. What people are issued in the field is not always what they wore. You're going through rough terrain with shirts get ripped to pieces, and you obviously have to find your own shirt from somewhere. As I said, I remember reading once, I can't remember which unit it was, but it was in the Indian Mutiny, and a lady had written to her back home in the UK a description of the British units as they marched past, and she said, I think it was her anyway, she said about this guy dressed in green. And it was actually a billiard, well, it wasn't snooker then, was it? It was a billiard table. He'd taken the bays off a billiard table and made himself either a shirt or a trousers out of it, or it was a roll of stuff ready for billiard table, because that's all he could find to cover himself up. And that's what it's like on campaign. You're issued with government stuff, government uniforms, which are always usually cheap and shabby, made to the lowest price. Especially in those eras, it tended to fall apart, whether it was boots or shirts, trousers, you name it. As soon as you went on campaign, so and especially in a place like India with just the heat, the ground conditions that you got to go through to just to get from A to B. I'd thoroughly recommend not just obviously the figures themselves, but the Indian Mutiny campaign. It really is, I think you see the British Army as you'd think it was in those days. Hard-bitten lads, real doughty fighters. They put up with so much dysentery, bad rations, no rations, and they always come up trumps. And nobody in those days went into the army because after a career, you usually went in because there's nowhere else to go. And I've got so much admiration for the lads of those. Well, I've always have done for our army, but for the lads in those times, they really were. They moved mountains. They were always reliable, and. There's so much, the mutineers side of it, which we'll go into when I get a mutineers battalion. There's so much uniform divergence and stuff that you can do. As I say, this one's going to be all khaki with just a few extras in, just to try and break it up a bit. It won't be the most good-looking unit you'll see, if that makes sense, on colour front or anything, but. There were other units, that were dressed in different parts of uniforms and that. So there's always a bit of divergence there. But it was a year-long campaign mostly. You can say it drifted on a bit late. There were still some bits of mopping up to do, but it was they more or less saved India. As in for the British, obviously the Indians would see it completely different, and I understand that. But for British India, they just a small amount of blokes, really, as usual, as for our little army, fought above its, punched above its weight. So, yeah, if you don't like this particular type of era, if you go back a few years into the 1840s. Mike does some beautiful. I was actually going to get them for a retrieve from Kabul and that era, and for the Sikh Wars. I believe you could use them for China. I don't think I'm wrong there. but I believe they could be used for China, which the 38th of my regiment fought in China. So look after yourselves. I'm waffling as always, but I was excited to break these open and get them at least under primer, so I can put them away in a box and wait for. As I say, I'll do 3 or 4 at a time. Well, 4. I'll do them by the bag, so 4 at a time. Other projects coming up, soldier-wise. At some stage, just amongst everything else, I'll probably keep doing the odd Wild West figures or Old West figures. I enjoy doing those. I haven't got any in stock at the moment, so I'll have to get some at some stage, but you'll see some of those come up. Star Wars, let's go again from the Indian Mutiny to Star Wars. I've got the little walker stuck on a base, magnetised the 3 weapons and stuff, the rider, whatever you want to call him, he's on. Just need to do a bit of touching up on that and work on the base, so you should see him soon. I had a bit of time cleaning off my 1 in 72 Hawker Hurricane. I'd stuck obviously the seams together and that, and I was just cleaning those off the other day. What else have we got? We've got a Napoleonic commission reveal for the 1st Battalion out of the 3. That'll be coming at some stage towards the end of the week. What else we got? And I'm hoping to get, well, I'm not hoping, I'm going to make time to get a bit more of my my other models, the Badger and the bike, push through an extra couple of hours on those some stage in the week. Oh well, who needs sleep? Right, look after yourselves guys, and we'll catch each other very soon on another video.